Je voudrais du soleil vert, des dentelles et des théâtres, des photos de bord de mer, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je voudrais de la lumière, comme en Nouvelle-Angleterre. Je veux changer d'atmosphère, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Ma fleur sous la pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, qu'il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Je voudrais du Fred Astaire, revoir un latte.
And to John's point about the president's closing message here in the final 2 weeks, you would think he'd be trying to expand a little bit, but boy, is he drilling down into the base. Yesterday, he spent the day attacking Dr. Anthony Fauci, saying he's a disaster, calling scientists idiots. He went after Joe Biden again at a rally, saying he should be locked up, and that if Bill Barr, his attorney general, were doing his job, or if he were someone else, that Joe Biden would have been locked up. And then here he is talking about the pandemic itself, something he's tried to wish away for 7 months, something he told Bob Woodward he's trying to downplay. Here's how he talked about it yesterday in Prescott, Arizona.
Pandemic. They're getting tired of the pandemic, aren't they? Getting tired of the pandemic. You turn on CNN, that's all they cover. COVID, pandemic, COVID. You know why? They're trying to talk everybody out of voting. People aren't buying at CNN, you dumb bastards. They're not buying it. That's all they're talking. You know, Biden wants to lock it down. He wants to listen to Dr. Fauci.
And of course, Joe, the Biden campaign's immediately turning that into an ad. Yes, I do want to listen to Dr. Fauci. And yes,
Absolutely.
People are concerned about the coronavirus pandemic that's killed now, according to our tally at the bottom here, 221,000 people and reshaped the lives of almost every American.
And you know why Joe Biden has decided, hey, I'm going to go and do debate prep for a couple of days?
Yep.
Because he literally wants to cede the entire stage to Donald Trump. Because either Donald Trump is providing aid and comfort to terrorists who tried to kill a Michigan governor by attacking her and saying, well, I don't know, maybe she's claiming that. And he's saying some extraordinary things there. Or he's attacking Anthony Fauci.
Or he's saying he's going to leave.
And also for people that say, hey, you know, I think I'm voting for Donald Trump because of my regulations, or it won't be as bad as they are under Joe Biden. He's enraged about the fact that his attorney general will not arrest his political opponent. So all of these people saying, oh, well, you know what? I just don't vote for Democrats. Oh, you know what? I'm just voting for him because of the regulations. Oh, you know, he doesn't. Donald Trump, in the last 2 weeks of the campaign, is raging at his attorney general for not arresting his political opponent. If you're voting for Donald Trump, that's who you're voting for. And if you're voting for that man who 2 weeks from Election Day is calling for the arrest of his opponent, then you have absolutely no idea what America is about. Let me say it again. You have no idea what this country is about if you are supporting a man who 2 weeks out is calling for the arrest of his opponent. You can't explain that away. You can't explain that away to history. You can't explain that away to your children or grandchildren. You just can't. And you can't plead ignorance because you know better. Let me say it one more time. Donald Trump, the man who said that Article 2 gave him power to do whatever he wanted to do. Donald Trump, the same man who constantly undermines the judiciary, and judges independence, the same man who calls the media, the free press, that Stalinist slur, enemies of the people, he's now yelling at his attorney general for not arresting his opponent. Take a listen to this.
Every day you wake up, where's Biden today? Sir, he's lit it out. He's lit it out. What does that mean? That means he's going to stay in the basement all day. But I think today he's staying in the basement to talk to his lawyers. They caught him cold. They caught him cold. He is lucky that we have in our country, and they don't appreciate, a wonderful human being and the most fair Attorney General of the United States. Because I know people that would have had him locked up 5 weeks ago. Bill Barr is a very nice man and a very fair man, and they have no idea, because somebody else would have taken that thing and all the crap and corruption. He's been a corrupt politician for a long time, this guy.
Campaign strategy seems to be to call Biden a criminal. Why is that?
He is a criminal. He's a criminal. He got caught. Read his laptop. And you know who's a criminal? You're a criminal for not reporting it. You are a criminal for not reporting it. Let me tell you something. Joe Biden is a criminal, and he's been a criminal for a long time. And you're a criminal in the media for not reporting it. Good luck, everybody. Have a good time.
So let's get this straight. So you have a president, Mika, who calls his opponent a criminal and is calling for his arrest, and now is actually, I know because he's called for my arrest several times.
We've been there.
Now he's calling for Jeff Mason arrest, calling him a criminal because he's not calling for the arrest. I mean, this is what is being fought in Belarus. Donald Trump is a strong man, a very weak strong man, but he's trying to be a strong man. And again, how anybody could vote for him, I don't care what your ideology is. I don't care what your regulations are. I mean, 2 weeks out saying that his opponent should be arrested. It is beyond the pale. It is un-American. There's no other way to put it.
It is Tuesday, the 20th of October of 2020, and you are in West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. I am your chef de cuisine, Justice Putnam. Gunnar, the English bulldog, is our snoozing sous chef, and our daily special is Tarrytown Chowder Tuesdays. A little small scant dash, a mere pinch of hot smoked Hungarian paprika will make all the difference in the world, and it always has. Well, it looks like we're in for a bumpy ride now, aren't we? Boy, I don't know. There's nothing in the Constitution that says that Trump doesn't have to wait until January to leave the country when he loses. He can get on that right away, and he might want to, since I would hope that his assets are frozen. Yeah, we don't want him taking the American U.S. Treasury to another country. If another country will have him, I know one that would, and they write their contracts in Cyrillic. You know, Trump is so persona non grata that he won't even be able to live in Paris, and Idi Amin got to live in Paris. Jeez. When you're so bad that even Paris won't have you, what's left? Well, I guess a flat next to Seagal in Gorky Park. Yeah. I know that Trump's going to want to own the whole building, but he can put his name on it. He doesn't have to own it. That's how he does it anyway. He doesn't own the building. He brands it. All right. Well, we're still in for a bumpy ride. And part of that bumpy ride is that we have a quack by the name of Atlas. Like that guy shrugging right now, huh? See what I did there? Who is quoting Orwell. Like it's us who are making some sort of Orwellian gambit here. These are genocidal murderers running this country right now. They believe that black people, brown people, yellow people, and liberals of any color will be killed by the COVID virus. And they're right. But so will Republicans. But, collateral damage. They're martyrs for the cause. We have to give up a few of ours to be able to get out most of theirs. This is the mindset they have. So herd immunity is just a nice way of saying genocide. And I'm not exaggerating. Their original intent, see what I did there, is to kill black, brown, yellow, and liberals of any color. And they believed that the virus was so discriminatory that it would only kill those people. And then they found out, it kills our people too. Well, this is how you tell how psychotic they are. It doesn't matter, let a few die. More for us. And people are screaming at his rallies, lock them up. Joe Biden is the criminal. Joe Biden has been the corrupt one. Joe Biden does not have any mob friends. Joe Biden never bankrupted casinos so often. The Italian mob would never loan him money and stop bankrolling him. And the only thing that Joe would have been able to do was to go to the Russian mob. Joe didn't do that. There is only one crime family that has been able to pull that one off. So, now we have this Orwellian gambit being played, that we are the ones telling the lie about COVID. We are the ones telling lies about Trump being installed by Vlad in the Oval Office. He wants to dismantle the FBI. He calls journalists criminal for asking him a question. Actually criminal for not going after that Biden story. Why won't you report the Biden story? We put it out there. You did it about Hillary. Why not Joe? He's so corrupt. Then we got idiots like Glenn Greenwald sitting in Brazil, who knows everything about what's happening in U.S. intelligence, and that Joe Biden is the real criminal. And not to go after Joe Biden is the Orwellian gambit. Well, we all know about Glenn Greenwald and his intentions, don't we? So, we have our work cut out for us. It's going to be a bumpy ride. You need a herd mentality to be able to get whatever they call herd immunity. And you know what? I am not joining the herd. I am not. And I know that Trump can probably issue some executive order that says that all Democratic votes will be illegal because they're anti-Trump. And that's a national security threat. And if Amy Coney Barrett is sitting on the court, I guess there will be a 6-3 decision that says, he can just throw out all those votes because it is a national security threat. And she will write the opinion that says, when Trump is screwing the country, he's only doing it in his capacity as commander-in-chief. Okay. We have our work cut out for us. It's going to be a bumpy ride, but I am still voting. I got my ballot. Goes in the box today. And I've been reading that if you do have a mail-in ballot, get it in by the 22nd. Because we know what's going to happen. It's happening right now. Down in Southern California, maggots are burning ballot boxes. They're throwing incendiary devices into ballot boxes. That's how they cheat. They'll do anything. They're bomb throwers. And I'm tired of it being Antifa, Antifa, Antifa. You know what? I am sorry. Find me one Antifa club president on any college campus anywhere in America. Just one. Just one. And it wasn't Antifa that blew up the Murrah building in Oklahoma City and killed a bunch of kids at daycare, along with a bunch of other people too. But there were kids at daycare on the ground floor, all dead. That was not Antifa. There's only one side of the political spectrum that does that kind of crime. So don't talk to me about Orwell and what passes into history. We're not stupid deplorables who vote for Trump. We are Americans. All right? All right. Well, I have a lot more to say, but we're going to have to get on to the shows or the stories that we've curated for you today. And why don't we? Why don't we? Well, of course, that at the top, Trump has bellowed that Fauci is a disaster, and Biden is lucky that Bill Barr hasn't locked him up. You know, I saw a picture of Bill Barr wearing a mask. Has he actually given a proof of life? Has he come out and given interviews and stuff since he got sick? I guess that mask on him is proof of life. Okay, good. On the rest of the menu here in the Bistro Cafe of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, the Supreme Court rejected a Republican bid to limit mail-in voting in Pennsylvania. Ooh, wow. No wonder Matt Schlapp wants Roberts impeached. Really? Okay, well, there's a few others I'd like to have impeached too. All right? Just, you might get what you wish for, Matt. Be careful. A coronavirus outbreak has killed 10 residents in a nursing home in northwestern Kansas. Yeah, the county is the number one county for coronavirus infections, but they don't want to do anything about it. And California won't allow any coronavirus vaccines without state approval. That's not being anti-vax. That's just making sure we're not taking something that Scott Atlas told Donald Trump to send to us. After the break, we move to the chef's table, where Indonesia rejected a U.S. request to allow its P-8 Poseidon military surveillance planes to land and refuel there. Well, okay. I guess we're just making inroads everywhere in the world, aren't we? And New Zealand's next parliament is set to be the most diverse ever. All that and more on West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Bon appetit. The bottom of our homepage at netrootsradio.com. To the rightish of the page is our chat room link, monitored by Kelly Lincoln. Thank you, Kelly. To the leftish of the chat room link, that's really near the bottom of our homepage at netrootsradio.com, you will then notice our link to our Patreon page. And all kidding aside, as we wind down to the end of the year, we are in a really big drive here to get some more funds, because we also have to buy software for the needed machinery that I mentioned that we have identified and have been purchasing. And software needs to be purchased also, because not all of it transfers from the old workhorses to the new ones. Isn't that weird? It's like proprietary stuff. Wow. Anyway, if you could afford an espresso-type coffee drink in these times of peril and send it to us once a month, well, we are able to stretch those dollars beyond compare. Really, beyond compare. And we pay our bills, we fly under the radar, and we're able to continue resisting as the founders originally intended. And we thank you for allowing us to fulfill our civic duty. We take it very seriously. If you would like to follow Netroots Radio on Twitter, it is so simple because Tom takes care of it all. Thank you, Tom. And you can follow us at Netroots Radio. Follow me on Twitter at Justice Putnam. I post the show notes and links diary on Daily Codes about 10 minutes before showtime, and then I put that up on social media because that's what you do. Follow the show on Twitter at Cookbook West and pick up podcasts by way of Spreaker, Stitcher, TuneIn, iHeart, YouTube, iTunes, etc., etc., etc. Lawrence Hurley of Reuters brings us this first offering here in the Bistro Cafe of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, Tarrytown Chowder Tuesdays. The U.S. Supreme Court yesterday, Monday, allowed an extension of the deadline for mail-in absentee ballots in Pennsylvania for the November 3rd elections, declining a Republican request to block a lower court's ruling that gave voters more time. The justices divided 4-4 left in place a Pennsylvania Supreme Court ruling in favor of state Democrats that had extended the deadline for state election officials to receive mail-in ballots postmarked by the evening of Election Day until 3 days later. The brief court order noted that 4 of the court's 5 conservative justices would have granted the request because they don't care about states' rights when it, impacts them adversely. There are currently only 8 justices on the usually 9-member court following the death last month of liberal Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, which left the court with a 5-3 conservative majority. Chief Justice John Roberts joined the 3 liberal justices in denying the request, with 5 votes needed for it to be granted. The decision highlights the impact that Trump's Supreme Court nominee, Amy Coney Barrett, could have as a potential deciding vote in election-related cases if, as expected, she is confirmed by the Republican-led Senate next week. In her confirmation hearing last week, Barrett did not commit to stepping aside in any election cases involving Trump because that's why she's there. Trump has announced that he needs the Supreme Court on his side to win. And trust me, she will be the one writing the opinion to throw away all Democratic votes, as well as many as they can. With nearly 1 million votes already cast in Pennsylvania, we support the court's decision not to meddle in our already working system, Pennsylvania Attorney General Josh Shapiro, a Democrat, said in a statement. The state Republican Party and Republican officials in Pennsylvania separately had appealed the state Supreme Court ruling as they sought to tighten deadlines for mail-in ballots. In a September 17 ruling, the state high court ruled in favor of the Pennsylvania Democratic Party and various Democratic officials and candidates who had asked for the court to protect voting rights during the coronavirus pandemic, which has prompted an increase in requests for mail-in ballots. The Democrats also raised concerns about whether the U.S. Postal Service, led by a Trump ally, DeJoy, would be able to handle the surge of ballots in a timely manner. Without court intervention, the previous mail-in ballot system, introduced last year, would unquestionably fail under the strain of COVID-19 and the 2020 presidential election, resulting in the disenfranchisement of voters. And that was the state court who concluded that decision. Trump has attacked the integrity of mail-in voting, a regular part of American elections that is being used even more this year because of the pandemic. Trump has made unsubstantiated claims that mail-in ballots are especially vulnerable for fraud and suggested without evidence that their widespread use would lead to a rigged election. And I should just remind folks, you can't hack a paper ballot, but you can hack a hackable voting machine. Anna of the Associated Press brings us this next offering here in the Bistro Cafe of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. A coronavirus outbreak has killed 10 residents in a nursing home in a northwestern Kansas county that proportionally already had the nation's largest increase in cases over 2 weeks. The health department in Norton County reported on Monday night, last night, that all 62 residents and an unspecified number of employees at the NB home in Norton had tested positive for the novel coronavirus. The agency also said one NB home resident was hospitalized while the remaining 51 were being treated at the home. Steps are being taken to prevent any further outbreak, including quarantining residents in their rooms and not allowing outside visitors into the facility, the county health department said in a statement last evening. The outbreak at the nursing home came after State Department Health and Environment last week reported more than 100 cases at the state's prison in Norton. Kansas is seeing an average of more than 700 new confirmed and probable coronavirus cases a day, its largest numbers since the pandemic reached the state in early March. Well, I guess they're getting the herd mentality that Scott Atlas insists that we have. But northwestern Kansas has been hit hard by the coronavirus in recent weeks, and Norton County had the largest number of new cases per 100,000 residents of any county in the U.S. The Kansas Health Department said that cases in Norton County rose from 46 2 weeks ago to 340 as of Monday. With about 5,400 residents, that was an increase of 5,484 cases per 100,000 residents, according to the state's figures. But the state released its report before Norton County officials confirmed that all NB home residents had tested positive for coronavirus, and before local officials reported 10 deaths at the home. Brings us this final offering here in the Bistro Cafe of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, Tarrytown Chowder Tuesdays. California won't allow any distribution of coronavirus vaccines in the nation's most populous state until it is reviewed by the state's own panel of experts, Governor Gavin Newsom said yesterday, Monday. Vaccinations for the pandemic will move at the speed of trust, said Newsom, and the state wants its own independent review no matter who wins the presidential election next month. Oh, I should mention that the AP found it important for us to know that Newsom is a Democrat, okay? Just so you know. Not a Democratic governor, but a Democrat. Of course, we won't take anyone's word for it, Newsom said, as he named 11 doctors and scientists to review any rollout of vaccines by the federal government or vaccine developers. The board members hail from top California universities and medical providers, along with state and local public health officials. Oh, you mean the expert class. The pledge raises the possibility that California residents might not receive a vaccine as distribution begins in other states, though the governor said widespread vaccinations are unrealistic until sometime next year. New York Governor Andrew Cuomo last month appointed a similar independent task force. It would be a mistake not to be aware of the way that the CDC and the FDA have been pressured by the White House, no matter who's in the White House, said David Magnus, director of the Stanford Center of Biomedical Ethics, so it might be prudent for a state to make sure everything's kosher. Well, you know what? I think there's only one administration that's ever taken the CDC to task. Please. I know he's got to say it because, Trump will fire him. He's less worried that there will be disagreement between the federal and state panels now that no vaccine release is likely before Election Day, but Magnus noted that it has not been uncommon for presidents to muzzle scientists in other areas, for instance, climate change or other environmental policies, thus setting up regular lawsuits with states like California. There's only one party who is denied climate change? Please. We know that we're being sold a package of goods, and those goods might be poison. I think we should I think we should demand that the expert class review this and deem it safe or not. All right, let's get to our break, and when we get back from that break, we will go through weather from around the world, and we will finish up with the stories that we have curated for you today. You are listening to West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, and we will be right back.
You are listening to netrootsradio.com.
Please hang up and try again.
From a point at sea to the circles of your mind, a new force is at work for planetary transformation. New radio for a new Earth.
This is Scientific American's 60-Second Science. I'm Christopher Intagliata. Ball games are a big source of modern amusement, even amid the pandemic, but they're nothing new. Consider, for instance, a 4,500-year-old linen ball found in a child's tomb in Egypt, or 3,600-year-old rubber balls from Central America, where the contest called for players to slam the ball with their hips. Now, researchers have pinned a date on what they say are the oldest sporting balls in Europe or Asia. 3 spheres dug up from the tombs of horsemen in the deserts of northwestern China, crafted 3 millennia ago.
And we are quite sure that they were used in some kind of bat and ball game.
Patrick Wertmann is an archaeologist at the University of Zurich and part of the team that analyzed the ancient sporting equipment. The balls are about 3 inches in diameter, wrapped in rawhide leather, and stuffed with leather strips and hair.
And then also when you look at the Chinese character of ball itself, it's quite interesting because this character is made up of the ideograms of hair and leather.
The details and photos of the balls appear in the Journal of Archaeological Science reports. As for how this ancient ball and stick game was played,
it could be something like polo, but it could also be something like an early form of hockey or golf. But since we don't have any textual evidence and we don't have any sticks from the same period, we don't really know exactly.
Regardless of the sport, Wertmann and his colleagues write that a ball game of any kind would have provided excellent exercise and military training, too. Thanks for listening. For Scientific American's 60-Second Science, I'm Christopher Intagliata.
This program is presented by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention.
Welcome to A Cup of Health with CDC, a weekly feature of the MMWR, the Morbidity and Mortality Weekly Report. I'm your host, Dr. Robert Gaines. As fall turns to winter, the flu season will be upon us in force. The best way to avoid influenza is to get immunized. Dr. Joe Brazee is a researcher with CDC's National Center for Immunization and Respiratory Diseases. He's joining us today to discuss the importance of getting the flu vaccine. Welcome to the show, Joe.
Thank you.
Joe, let's start with how long does the flu season last?
In general, flu seasons will last for several months in the United States at the national level. Each year it begins in the fall, usually peaks between January and March, and ends in the spring. But the timing of flu season is unpredictable, especially at the local level. So because we can't tell for sure when it will start, when it will peak, and when it will end in every community, we want to make sure that people get vaccinated as early as possible when the flu vaccines become available in the late summer and early fall.
Well, who should get vaccinated?
Everyone 6 months of age and older should get vaccinated against the flu each and every year. This is especially important for people at high risk of complications or severe flu if they get infected.
Which groups are at higher risk for complications from the flu?
Well, some people are at especially higher risk for severe flu or complications. These are people who are very young, like kids under 5 years of age, anybody 65 years and older, and people with underlying health disorders like heart disease, lung disease, kidney disease, or diseases of the immune system, and pregnant women.
Joe, how effective is the vaccine for preventing flu?
Well, vaccine is the single best way to protect you and your family from the flu each year. Most years, the vaccine reduces a person's chance of getting the flu and complications from the flu by about 50 to 70%. But how well it works can vary from season to season and by person. So remember that vaccine is one of 3 ways you can protect yourself against the flu. The other ones are good hygiene, like hand washing, covering your cough, staying home when you're sick, and finally, medications. There are medications that your doctor can prescribe to treat the flu if you get it.
Are there any side effects from getting vaccinated?
Well, there are 2 types of flu vaccines. First, the shots. The most common side effects with the flu shots are soreness or redness in your arm for a day or 2 after getting the vaccine. The nasal spray vaccines can cause runny nose or congestion or low-grade fever in some people for, again, about a day or 2 after getting the vaccine. So these side effects are mild compared with the disease itself, which causes hundreds of thousands of hospitalizations and tens of thousands of deaths each year in the United States. Remember that the vaccine is the safest and most effective way to prevent flu each and every year.
Joe, where can listeners get more information about the flu vaccine?
We'll go to cdc.gov/flu.
Thanks, Joe. I've been talking today with CDC's Dr. Joe Brazee about the annual flu vaccine. Remember, everyone 6 months and older should be vaccinated. To get your annual flu vaccine, see your healthcare provider or go to a pharmacy, grocery store, or clinic in your area. If you get influenza, talk with your healthcare provider right away about antiviral medication. Until next time, be well. This is Dr. Robert Gaines for A Cup of Health with CDC.
For the most accurate health information, visit www.cdc.gov or call 1-800-CDC-INFO.
Hi, it's Tom. Could we humbly suggest your donation to netrootsradio.com? All we've got to run this 24-hour powerhouse of progressive resistance radio is what comes out of our own wallets. And you are our biggest donor. It doesn't take much, $3, $5. Just go to the bottom of our netrootsradio.com page and hit our secure donate button. Heck, you can even make a recurring contribution, and you'll get a wondiferous pair of Netroots radio stickers for application to your backpack, your bumper sticker, or your banjo. Well, it's up to you which backpack you want to put it on. So donate what you'd like at the bottom of our netrootsradio.com's homepage, because you are our biggest donor. netrootsradio.com. Together, we are Resistance Radio.
Mildred and Richard Loving were charged and then banished from their home state of Virginia for 25 years for violating that state's law that made being a mixed-race couple criminal. I'm Bill Newman, and this is the Civil Liberties Minute. It was the middle of the 20th century, and the Lovings, who had been married in Washington, D.C., were guilty of violating the state's racist Racial Integrity Act. Mildred Loving described herself as part Negro, part Indian, and her husband was white. The presiding state court judge, Leon Bazile, heartily defended the law when he declared Almighty God made the races white, black, yellow, Malay, and red and placed them on separate continents, and but for the interference with his arrangement, there would be no cause for such marriages. Mildred Loving wrote Attorney General Robert Kennedy seeking help, and Kennedy redirected the letter to the ACLU, where ACLU volunteer attorneys Bernard Cohen and Philip Hirschkopf took the Lovings case all the way to the Supreme Court. There, a unanimous court in 1967, in the now famous case of Loving versus Virginia, ruled that the freedom to marry a person of another race resides with the individual and cannot be infringed by the state. Richard Loving died in a car accident in 1975. Mildred Loving passed in 2008. And their attorney, Bernard Cohen, died at age 86 in October 2020. His contribution to equality under the law lives on. The Civil Liberties Minute is made possible by the ACLU because freedom can't protect itself.
Sometimes I don't know whether to weep uncontrollably, laugh hysterically, or just throw up. I recently did all three when I saw another gusher of greed pouring out of corporate America. This one is especially nauseating, given today's raging health crisis, for the culprits are major healthcare corporations. One perpetrator is Larry Merlo, CEO of our country's largest drugstore chain, CVS. In this time of COVID-19, customers are surging into the chain's 10,000 stores for everything from medications to masks. Yet, the boss has blithely left many of the pharmacies so severely understaffed that they pose a danger to public health. CVS pharmacists tell of frantically scrambling to keep up with filling prescriptions, answering ever-ringing phone inquiries, giving shots and COVID tests, stocking toilet paper, tending the drive-thru, etc., while also having to meet ceaseless corporate demands for cost-cutting and more profit. The result has been a dangerous work overload, with many pharmacists handling nearly 200 prescriptions in a 6-hour shift, about one every 2 minutes. Unsurprisingly, there's been an alarming rise in serious errors and week-long delays in providing critical medications for customers. Adding to the exasperation of local managers, who are allowed no say in staffing, is the infuriating level of heedless greed at the top. The New York Times reports that while CEO Merlo has failed to fund the staff his pharmacies need, he has generously funded his own needs. He paid himself $36.5 million last year alone. Then there's the mountain of interest payments and fees that CVS is paying to Wall Street bankers and lawyers who engineered Merlo's takeover of the Aetna health insurance giant last year. This is Jim Hightower saying, so while you're being underserved at a local CVS, just remember that boss man Merlo and his merger mercenaries are making a killing.
Need an antidote to the progressive blues? Want some good news about how grassroots folks are rebelling against the corporate powers and winning? Well, here's an easy-to-swallow pill for you, the Hightower Lowdown. Hightower's monthly newsletter will give you the lowdown, even as it lifts you up. It's 4 pages a month, jam-packed with facts you can use, actions you can take, and Jim's own Texas humor, all for only $15 a year. To become a lowdowner, go to hightowerlowdown.org.
I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 1926. That was the day that one of the great labor leaders in U.S. history, Eugene V. Debs, died in Elmhurst, Illinois. In 1894, Debs gained national attention when his American Railway Union launched a boycott in support of the striking workers of the Pullman Palace Car Company. The strike and the boycott were crushed by federal troops and a federal court. Debs served 6 months in jail for his role in the boycott. Later, Debs would again go to jail for standing up for his beliefs. He was convicted for speaking out against U.S. involvement in World War I. He was among the founders of the IWW, the Industrial Workers of the World, in 1905. He ran as a socialist for President of the United States 5 times, receiving nearly 1 million votes running his campaign from a prison cell in 1920. In 1891, Debs wrote an article for the Locomotive Fireman's magazine titled The Unity of Labor. His words stand as an eloquent case for worker solidarity. Debs wrote, quote, "If working men were united in sympathetic bonds, if a bricklayer could comprehend the fact that he is dependent on the hod carrier, if the locomotive engineer could grasp the fact that he is dependent on the locomotive fireman, the interdependence of labor would at once constitute a bond of union, a chain whose link forged and fashioned to hold working men in harmonious alliance, would girt them with a defense in every time of trouble and resist invasion, though assailed by all the plutocrats that ever cursed the earth. Debs spent his life trying to bring about this harmonious alliance of working people and standing up for the causes of peace and justice. For more information, go to laborhistoryin2.com, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter at laborhistoryin2.
I read the news today, oh boy.
It's time for Nicole Sandler's What's News from NicoleSandler.com and the Progressive Voices Network.
Like a toddler badly needing a nap, Donald Trump is in meltdown mode. On Monday, he raged against Dr. Anthony Fauci, reporters, and the next debate moderator, among others. First, on a conference call with staff and supporters, Trump smeared the nation's top infectious disease expert.
People are tired of COVID. People are saying whatever. Just leave us alone. They're tired of it. People are tired of hearing Fauci and all these idiots, these people that have gotten it wrong. Fauci's a nice guy. He's been here for 500 years. He's a disaster. I mean, this guy's, if I listened to him, we'd have 500,000 deaths.
Trump's attack came in the wake of a 60 Minutes report in which Fauci said he wasn't surprised that Trump caught COVID-19 after a mostly mask-free White House gathering that health officials suspect was a super spreader event. Fauci also recently said a Trump campaign ad depicting him as praising the administration's coronavirus response used his words, quote, completely out of context. At the airport, in between rallies in Arizona on Monday, Trump attacked the moderator of Thursday's final debate, Kristen Welker, railed against Mike Wallace and Savannah Guthrie, and sparred with NBC's Kelly O'Donnell, who simply asked when he last tested negative for coronavirus.
You authorize your doctors to tell you when you tested negative last before the last
Is that
debate?
very important to you?
Yes,
You seem to be so intent. But if it's so important to you, why is it so important to you?
Because we want to know how long you may have been.
Why?
We want to know if you followed the rules.
I know, but why is it so important to you?
You authorize your
Look at
doctors
the
to release
dedication.
that
Yeah,
information.
my doctors have already given it. You know, my doctors have given more information than has been given on any human being in the history of the world.
Then, Trump called Joe Biden a criminal and said reporters who didn't cover the story were criminals too.
Campaign strategy seems to be to call Biden a criminal. Why is that?
He is a criminal. He's a criminal. He got caught, read his laptop, and you know who's a criminal? You're a criminal for not reporting it. You are a criminal for not reporting it. Let me tell you something. Joe Biden is a criminal, and he's been a criminal for a long time, and you're a criminal in the media for not reporting it.
Wow. In advance of Thursday's final debate, the commission governing the debates has tweaked the rules to mute the other's microphone while each is delivering his opening 2-minute answer to each of the topics. Speaking of those rallies, the mayor of Tucson, Arizona, sent Trump a letter pointing out that his campaign still owes her city $80,000 for his last rally held 4 years ago. Democrat Regina Romero also urged Trump to adhere to Tucson's mask mandate and follow social distance requirements. That didn't happen, and he still hasn't paid up what he owes. Upwards of 30 million Americans have already cast their votes in the November 3rd election. On Monday, the Supreme Court, with a 4-4 tie, effectively allowed the state of Pennsylvania to keep its extended mail-in voting period, leaving in place a lower court ruling that will let state officials count ballots received after Election Day, unless there's evidence they were sent in after the deadline. Election officials have 3 days to count those votes, as the Pennsylvania Supreme Court determined last month. Well, we'll find out Tuesday if the Nancy Pelosi-Stephen Mnuchin negotiations on a new COVID relief package worked. The White House announced Monday that it increased its coronavirus relief offer to nearly $1.9 trillion ahead of Nancy Pelosi's Tuesday deadline for a deal on a new stimulus package. Sticking points in the negotiations include testing, unemployment benefits, and funding for states and cities. What the F, Jeff? The New Yorker magazine has suspended reporter Jeffrey Toobin for masturbating on a Zoom video chat between members of the New Yorker and WNYC Radio last week. Toobin says he didn't realize his video was on, saying, quote, "I made an embarrassingly stupid mistake believing I was off camera. I apologize to my wife, family, friends, and coworkers. I believed I was not visible on Zoom. I thought no one on the Zoom call could see me. I thought I had muted the Zoom video," he said. Toobin is also now on a personal leave of absence from his job as chief legal analyst at CNN. CNN offered no comment. And finally, retired four-star Admiral William McRaven, the man who oversaw the raid that led to the killing of Osama bin Laden in 2011, in an editorial to Wall Street Journal Monday, endorsed Joe Biden, writing, quote, "This week I went to the polls in Texas. I am a pro-life, pro-Second Amendment, small government, strong defense, and a national anthem standing conservative. But I also believe that Black Lives Matter, that dreamers deserve a path to citizenship, that diversity and inclusion are essential to our national success, that education is the great equalizer, and that climate change is real." Well said, Admiral. Well said. And that's just a bit of what's news. For now, I'm Nicole Sandler. If you appreciate these reports and the Nicole Sandler Show, I hope you'll consider making a contribution. My work is 100% listener supported, and I can't do it without your help. Find out more at NicoleSandler.com, and please click on that donate button.
Thank you for accompanying us here to the chef's table at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Tarrytown Chowder Tuesdays. We always begin weather from around the world along the banks of the Rogue River and the Rogue River Valley of Southern Oregon on the west coast of the continental United States of America, where it is currently 43 degrees Fahrenheit, expecting temperatures nearly the same as yesterday, about mid-70s towards the end of the day. A good deal of sunshine, winds will be light and variable. Clear to partly cloudy overnight with lows in the mid-40s, winds remaining light and variable. Sun and a few passing clouds tomorrow with the highs only in the mid-60s. Winds will pick up out of the north-northwest at 5 to 10, and we are expecting some rain on Friday. Confirmed coronavirus cases in Jackson County here in the southern part of Oregon have now spiked to 1,510, with 6 deceased remaining the total so far in the county. Pollen is rated at none. The air quality index is good at 22 parts per million. The daytime UV index is moderate at 3. Barometric pressure is holding steady at 30.17 inches. Visibility is up to 10 miles. And relative humidity is at 98%. Weather from around the world is brought to you by people's personal weather stations that they purchased. These people planted these purchased personal weather stations somewhere on their property, and these people positively live around the world. London is 65 and mostly cloudy. Paris is 60 with a light rain. Rome is 70 degrees and sunny. Kyiv is 48 and fair. Kabul is 62 and fair. Hong Kong is 72 degrees and fair. Tokyo is 58 and clear. Sydney, Australia is 63 and partly cloudy. San Francisco, California is 54 degrees and partly cloudy. And New York is 65 degrees Fahrenheit with heavy fog. And that is weather from around the world, brought to you by people's personal weather stations that they purchased, and these people planted these purchased personal weather stations somewhere on their property, and these people positively live around the world. Ballard of Reuters brings us this first amuse-bouche here at the chef's table at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Indonesia rejected this year a proposal by the U.S. to allow its P-8 Poseidon maritime surveillance planes to land and refuel there, according to 4 senior Indonesian officials familiar with the matter. U.S. officials made multiple high-level approaches in July and August to Indonesia's defense and foreign ministers before Indonesia's president, Widodo, rebuffed the request. Representatives for Indonesia's president and defense minister, the U.S. Department Press Office, and the U.S. Embassy in Jakarta did not respond to requests for comment. Representatives of the U.S. Department of Defense and Indonesia's foreign minister declined to comment also. The proposal, which came as the U.S. and China escalated their contest for influence in Southeast Asia, surprised Indonesia's government because Indonesia has a long-standing policy of foreign policy neutrality. The country has never allowed foreign militaries to operate there.
Je te donne c'est mon amour pour la vie entière. La promesse de me trouver à tes genoux. Aussitôt que tu m'appelles, rester toujours fidèle. C'est tout, c'est tout. Je te donne tous mes printemps, mes étés de mer. Mes automnes, quand les feuilles tombent partout. Si ce n'est pas une bonne affaire, je te donne tous mes hivers.
Praveen Menon of Reuters brings us this final amuse-bouche here at the chef's table at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. New Zealand's next parliament is set to be the most inclusive ever, with several people of color, members from the rainbow communities, and a high number of women. The ruling Labour Party was handed a resounding mandate in the election over the weekend as voters rewarded Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern for her decisive response to COVID-19. Although Ardern has the numbers to govern alone, she is in talks with former ally, the Green Party, to build a wider consensus. Labour won 64 of the 120 parliamentary seats, and more than half of those are female candidates. It also has 16 indigenous Maori MPs, the first leader of African origin, and also one of Sri Lankan origin. This is the most diverse parliament we have ever had in terms of gender and minority, ethnic, and indigenous representation, said Professor Paul Spoonley from the College of Humanities and Social Sciences at Massey University. It is also expected to be the most rainbow representative parliament system in the world, with about 10% of its members in the 120-seat House being openly lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender. This includes prominent leaders like Finance Minister Grant Robinson, who is openly gay. The Greens surprisingly won as many as 10 seats in Parliament, and a majority of them are women, Indigenous leaders, or LGBTQ+. The majority of the new MPs elected into Parliament are also much younger, and many of them are millennials. Indeed. Well, that's good news for the world. And it also brings us to the end of our broadcast period for the day. But you do know Netroots Radio will broadcast on, and we're going to meet up tomorrow for Smothered Benedict Wednesdays. So do stay tuned to Netroots Radio all day and all night for all the breaking news as it breaks. And we'll meet up here tomorrow, right here in West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Bon appetit.
Je voudrais du soleil vert, des dentelles et des théières, des photos de bord de mer, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je voudrais de la lumière, comme en Nouvelle-Angleterre. Je veux changer d'atmosphère, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Ma robe à fleurs, sous la pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Je voudrais du Fred Astaire, revoir un latte Goël. Je voudrais toujours te plaire, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je veux déjeuner par terre, comme au long de golfe clair, t'embrasser les yeux ouverts, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Ma robe à fleurs, sous la pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Ba-da-da-dum-di-da-dum, 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 dans mon jardin d'hiver. Ba-da-da-dum-di-da-dum, 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 dans mon jardin d'hiver. Dans mon jardin d'hiver, dans mon jardin d'hiver.